Pentagon says a Chinese jet fighter conducted a, quote, unnecessarily aggressive maneuver near a U.S. military plane flying in international airspace over the South China Sea last week. China shifting the blame onto the United States this morning, claiming, quote, the U.S.'s provocative and dangerous moves are the root cause of maritime security issues. Joining me now, retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and senior fellow and military expert for defense priorities, Daniel Davis. Sir, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. You know, I'm always struck by the wording that the Chinese Communist Party uses in its propaganda, and they're talking about, quote unquote, the root cause. I mean, it's putting the U.S., you know, it's putting it in the U.S.'s face, because we know that that is a line that the vice president has used in the past. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, really what you're seeing here is an evolution of things and a change from what has been the case. We've been flying these kinds of intelligence flights from the RC-35 really for decades, and we've been doing this routinely, which is what the Pentagon is talking about. It is, in fact, in international airspace, but China has never liked the fact that we were right up against their borders collecting information on them, but there's nothing they could have done about it. But what you're seeing now is a pattern that they're saying, hey, we're no longer the weak power that we used to be, and we're going to start pushing back. And, you know, you see these kind of moves here. This was, in fact, an unsafe maneuver, because when the jet wash went across the U.S. aircraft, you saw it shake and shudder when you watched that video. And that was reminiscent of what happened with the Russian aircraft when they flew through the U.S. Drone that actually knocked it out of the sky. So these things could have a real impact if the thing goes wrong, and it was a very risky maneuver.
Well, risky, not any more risky than sending a surveillance balloon into the United States airspace and allow it to travel all the way to South Carolina for a week. No more risky than a cover-up of COVID-19. I mean, clearly, the Chinese Communist Party does not care about rattling the United States in any way. How concerning is this? Where is this going?
Yeah, that is right. You know, because, you know, in the aftermath of that, the U.S. Canceled its planned meeting with the foreign minister, with Secretary of State. That's our response?
Canceling a meeting?
Which hadn't happened.
That's it?
Yeah, well, that's the problem is, though, that we're not talking. And so now that we're trying to get Secretary of Defense to try to meet with their Chinese counterpart, and they refused that as well. So you see that the situation is worsening, especially in the military fields. And this is something that the administration is going to have to get a handle on. And we can't just do business as we've been doing for the longest time, because things are going to continue to deteriorate as China gets more strong and more confident.
So what should be done?
Well, we're going to have to, like, in a little bit, eat some pride and say, hey, we're going to have to start talking and actually engaging. And we can't just dictate what China's going to do anymore, because clearly they're not going to do that. Yeah. And it is not in America's interest for the relations to deteriorate, where some kind of an incident like this could actually spark a conflict. So we have to make sure that we take in concern of our national interest and not just try to be tough all the time, but we have to actually do hard diplomacy.
Yeah, I mean, the CCP has been able to get inside the gates of America. That's a term that Secretary Pompeo uses all the time. They've been able to lobby big business as well to become lobbying for the CCP. Now, J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon is in China. He's calling for, quote, real engagement between U.S. and Chinese officials today during the bank's annual Global China Summit in Shanghai. Dimon says he's advocating for de-risking economic ties between the two nations instead of a full-scale decoupling. Elon Musk is also in China meeting with officials in Beijing. Musk allegedly telling China's foreign minister yesterday that he also opposes decoupling and is willing to continue expanding his business there. I mean, Lieutenant Colonel, what does business know about the national security issues? Here we have two business guys saying we can't decouple because of the economic ties to the two nations. So what is the United States supposed to do? Keep taking all of these hits from communist China?
No, they shouldn't. We definitely should not just keep taking these hits, but we also have to say, hey, we're going to do what makes sense. And you can add the Starbucks CEO to that list. They were there on Monday doing the same kind of thing, because they see a great business opportunity, and that's what they want. China has a desire to do that, and of course they're courting these to try to make their image look better all across the globe. And what the United States has to make sure that we do is that we don't get outplayed by the Chinese government on our own people on their terms. If we're going to do business, because that's good for America, it's good across the board with billions of dollars at stake for our companies, we've got to do it smarter and better to where we actually benefit as well and we don't get outplayed. And right now, that's exactly what's happening. I don't think you could say any other way.
Absolutely, Adam.
Lieutenant Colonel Adam Johnson, I think Maria raises an interesting point, and that is that on the one hand, you've got business going over there and negotiating, and then on the other, you've got the U.S. military taking a very different tact. I'm going to call it good cop, bad cop. Is that kind of what's playing out, good cop, bad cop?
You know, I think it is, and I'm not sure that we're playing the bad cop role very effectively, because we're expanding military bases in Japan, in Guam, in Palau. We're trying to, build up more military power over there, and we're certainly engaging more on a political level with Taiwan, which of course is their red herring over there. And we have to really be honest and say we've got to do what's going to work for America and not just go with the military coercion all the time. We have to engage smarter. And that's why I'm so emphatic on the diplomatic front, because that's what can benefit America and keep the risk of conflict down. Incidents like this will not play well for us, and we can't just try to be tough and then end up sparking a conflict. That wouldn't help us.
I understand what you're saying, but when is enough? I mean, I've got a list in front of me right here from the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which walks through all of the new laws that the Chinese Communist Party have put in place. They've got the PRC counter-espionage law, the anti-monopoly law, the National Intelligence Law of the People's Republic of China, the PRC anti-foreign sanctions law, the unreliable entities list, the China's cybersecurity law. All of these national security laws that the CCP has put in place in the last couple of years enables the CCP to march into any American company that is based in China, has offices in China, and raid the place and steal intellectual property. Again, I don't think it's good cop, bad cop, because I don't think the U.S. is doing anything about this. So far, it's just been the CCP running the show, running the table here. When is the United States going to push back, and what should that pushback look like?
Well, that's exactly the right question to ask. What should the pushback look like? Because what we're doing right now is the only pushback we're having is militarily. But what we're not doing is engaging diplomatically and economically on those very issues you're talking about there. Under no circumstance should American business be handcuffed to operate only on Chinese terms. The problem is that you have all these CEOs going, you just mentioned, over there, and certainly lots of others, because they want business. But we've got to say, hey, look, there's got to be some limits here to where you can't just do whatever you need to make money for your own company at the expense of the rest of the business in America. So we've got to be pushing back more on those terms. That's going to be on our terms, too, not just Chinese terms.
And look, all I can say is they were enablers to Nazi Germany as well, back in the 1930s and 1940s. And today, I'm just questioning whether or not Wall Street and big business has a clear understanding of the national security issues that the United States faces right now. Putting economic issues aside, I know there's billions to be made by selling your products and your widgets to 1.4 billion people in China. You're never going to get a fair shake, though, if you're an American company. They have a 51% rule that the Chinese company has to own 51% of that business as well. So American companies aren't getting the fair shake, and yet they're still pushing to sell to communist China without any awareness of the national security issues, in my opinion.
Yeah, and look, and I think that's a problem, because I think that we're so focused on the 49% where they see the market there that we're not pushing back enough to say, hey, there are other issues at stake here. And that's about what the government can do in some of our working with some of these CEOs, and not just going to China and talking to their foreign minister. That needs to be happening on our level, and I don't think enough of that is happening.
Well, Mike Gallagher's trying it, the head of the China Select Committee, for sure, talking to CEOs about this. We'll keep the spotlight on it, Colonel. Good to see you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Maria.